DC Vigilante, coming to you with my truth. Why do I hate Marvel? Well, mainly it started off with my comics. I used to get bits and pieces of them through the newsagents. There was no comic shops and whatnot. And then I started buying monthly magazines, which weren't the real comics. It was like these bigger versions collected, and it was like British. I took some of the comics and took some of the storylines and put it on one. So I started reading the stories between DC and Marvel and stuff. And then I found that Marvel comics was starting to like be up its own ass. I felt like every time I was starting to read the story and the way it ended, it just felt like it was complimenting itself and how great it was. You know, like the Fantastic Four, and this person is Mr. Fantastic and everything else, and I just, it's the whole writing to me. And then of course I got a guy in work gave me a whole load of Thor comics, and so I read them, and it was a snore fest. You know, I think the only survivors for the Marvel comics I carried on a wee bit was with Hulk and Spider Man, and even though I've got my, you know, I kind of. I've got my preferences when it comes to the writing of Spider Man and the Hulk, you know. So of course I went back to the originals, you know, Batman and Superman, and I got so invested in that universe. And I think it was the Michael Keaton film years later that revived my love for the franchise, and I started buying like the movie comics of those movies. And as I say, I just couldn't get into it. You know, I just so I still I like the DC, and so I bought the DC, and then of course the internet started, so I started to look online, and then I realised there was a divide between DC fans and Marvel, and I had some groups made up, and I had like DC and Marvel United and stuff. There's still groups that could be found on Facebook and stuff. Um, and then I think what really sealed its fate for me was when Disney had bought it over, and then there was all these films coming out, and for me they weren't all that good. You know, they had the Spider-Man movies, which I was excited for, and it was like played by Tobey Maguire, and I thought, no, that's not Spider-Man, and that's not what happened to Mary J. You know, that's not happened to Gwen Stacy and stuff like that, and I thought, no, and then I thought, but I want the Spider-Man, I want the Superman movie, and then Man of Steel came out, and I thought, fantastic. And then people were kind of moaning about that, and I went, oh God almighty. And then you started to have what I felt was most Marvel fans was just accepting anything that they got. And then as the popularity of the Marvel movies got, and I started noting the biased treatment the films had got. People had started nitpicking at DC movies, the same thing that the Marvel films were doing anyway, but nobody was saying anything about them. And I thought, God almighty. And BVS came out, and then Civil War came out. It was kind of a copy of that. And it just grew more and more, and then there was a talk about the Rotten Tomatoes, and then that came through. That Disney was buying up all these websites, and all the YouTube channels started to become biased, and I felt like, oh, who's paying you and stuff like that? Just seriously. And then we've got the two directors that have done Infinity War and Endgame, and they're like yes men, right? They don't really have a creative thought in their body. Well, especially Kevin Feige, because he just supposedly takes inspiration from all these other movies. Not a single thought about originality from himself, unlike Zack Snyder. So these two people brought Endgame, and what they came out and said something along, oh, the problem with DC and why we wouldn't touch DC is the characters are too powerful and stuff. And I'm thinking, Thor, Hulk, excuse me, you know what? Those are powerful. And now you got Captain Marvel. Now you also on the board of that you had Star Wars, right? Now Star Wars again being owned by Disney, and they had totally destroyed Star Wars for me. And they had this agenda going on with the feminism and stuff like that. And then they had Rian Johnson that did The Last Jedi? He's kind of like a yes man, right? He's not much of a director, so to speak. But then we get a director that has original ideas how to watch movies, how to film something like Superman and Batman, like Zack Snyder. We had Man of Steel and BVS, but because the Marvel movies were done in a particular way, it demanded that all films should follow suit. So we get something. So then Zack Snyder, he was treated badly because he wasn't, sacrificing his art, his creative genius, to go and make something like that. And funny now that you come to mention it, it was said that he was making the film Fountainhead or something, which I don't believe anymore, right? But Fountainhead that he kept on posting was, and if you follow the trailer for it, you go to Fountainhead, and there's a wee clip of it where an architect has designed the building, but the big bosses of this firm wants him to change his art to something old and new that all the other people are doing. He says, "No, you've paid me to design a building. This is my building. I'm not changing it for anything." And I thought, wow, that kind of just highlights what Zack's done. Meanwhile, Kevin Feige in Marvel, he's been telling people how to do it. It's his way or that way. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers, they've been going on and saying, oh, we are very director driven. But director driven as though we have to copy Marvel. So far we've had two films in the past that are quite like Marvel. Shazam and Aquaman. Far away from Zack Snyder. So it's came to us now that there is a division called Release the Snyder Cut. And we're all wanting this. And because of the Disney and stuff, it's divided the DC fans. It's divided those people that want the Snyder Cut, which is growing in numbers because people are suddenly realising how great BVS was, and to the small majority of DC fans that didn't like BVS, that wants it to be done like Christopher Reeve. Now, that's going to go on to another topic. So for me, I hate Marvel for the simple reason, because if it wasn't for them, DC movies could be really going strong just now with its own independent feel. And yes, I do believe they could coexist, but because, and two different flavours. But out there, Marvel just owns a utopia, and they're telling you to go and watch this Captain Marvel film before Endgame. They're forcing people into theatres. So everything that Marvel's done, which is of course connected to Disney, is everything that they mention is like, wow, and people are still supporting it. And this is the main reason why I dislike Marvel, because they are throwing what I believe is just mundane movies and making a bomb. You know, and there's not one bit of creative difference or, you know, single idea out of it. It was basically the same movie getting repeated constantly, the same ingredients in every movie. And at least DC, especially at the start, had something else to offer. And there is a huge part of me now that will dislike Marvel. Maybe call it envious, call it jealousy, call it whatever you want. Is it just because that DC hasn't got this 10-year legacy or whatnot? Probably. Because I'm a DC supporter. I wanted these DC films. And I feel that Marvel Disney has because they were one of the first to the post to make these films, has hindered any thought of having a DC universe. Because people believe that Marvel is the only way to go. Which, to me, I've read comments from Marvel fans, and the movies don't really do the justice just as much, you know, when it comes to comics. People are saying that, oh, Marvel movies, they're bringing their families together and they're going to see these. People that wouldn't normally go and see a Marvel movie are going to see this. And people that don't normally read Marvel comics. Well, tell me something then. Why is it the DC comics are still outgrossing, outselling Marvel? Yeah? Because DC has a lot of potential. But because Disney, the communist state of Disney, and propaganda that they have the control over social media, is why I will hate Marvel. Anyway, it's a roundabout way. So that's my truth. Catch you later.